What's going on, guys? This is basically going to be a continuation from my last video. So if you didn't catch my last video, maybe you need to go back and watch that before you watch this one. Or not. It doesn't even matter. I'm sure you can keep up with what I'm saying. I know a lot of you aren't stupid. I know that for a fact. Anyway, I want to start off with the fact that I said I might know a little bit more about what Ye's going through because I dealt with the government and dealt with the way they will conspire behind closed doors, trying to catch you, trip you up, or catch you into something, or maybe even set you up into something so that they can bring charges against you and get you in their jails. People, that is not an old concept. And it's hard for me to believe that you guys don't believe that could happen to rich people as well. It's hard to keep that big money. It's hard to keep it if you're not willing to go along with all of the evil. That money brings a lot of evil with it. But I know about this stuff because of the fact that I've looked these laws up, folks. I have been screaming Article 18 U.S. Code 241 and 242 for 3 years. I've been screaming that from my barn inside my barn. But I put out a lot of videos, folks. Last 14 months, I got almost 100 videos on this channel. When they took down my channel here a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, whatever, that my last channel, the last one they took down, I just put 301 videos on it in 14 months. The same 14-month period. So I had 300 videos on there in 14 months. I had another 100, almost another 100 on this one, this channel. I've been screaming this stuff, but they keep tearing it down, getting rid of it, and then I forget about it. But this is one of the first things when all this stuff with you know what that happened, that started in 1920. People, all of this, this is why I went to the sheriff's department, Sheriff Green in this county, Mahoning County they call it. Youngstown, basically Ohio. Mahoning County covers a lot. It covers Youngstown, Boardman Township. It covers a lot of Struthers, a lot of areas around Austin Town. It's a big county. That's why I went straight to him first. He's my rights guy. He's the guy that's supposed to defend my rights. Oh no, he's an oath keeper. He's an oath taker, I mean. My rights didn't mean nothing to him. He told me, you know what the Sheriff Green told me? He told me, we done told the governor we're not going to be the mask police. Oh, yeah, that's what he told him. But you know who was running the courthouses around here? And when I had to go into the courthouse, they were telling people to put masks on as they go on, and I was, nah, ain't happening. That was the sheriff's department. They run the courthouses and the jails and all that. Hell, that sheriff's department forced vaccines and forced masks and everything else on them boys. that are locked up in those jails. I guarantee you that. Those sheriffs are the ones that, especially the people that are in their custody, under the sheriff's department custody, as soon as they put handcuffs on you and you are detained and arrested, you're under their custody. Anything happens to you, it's their fucking fault. They're supposed to protect you in every way, shape, or form. Doesn't happen. They'll throw you inside of, I ain't even going into that. I'm going to stick with what I'm going on right now. People that, when that old mask mandate came down, my breathing's already, and you guys, you can swear all you want that because I've smoked, that I breathe the way I do today. You don't have my medical records. I have something that I was born with that I even could pass on to any children of mine. And it is, I can't remember the name of it, and I'm not here to convince you of anything. I got my own ordeal going on with my smoking. I've been smoking longer than most of you people have been on the earth. Round or flat. So you don't tell me about that. I've been dealing with my other problems all my life. If you want to know my medical, I'll show you my medical records. I'll put them online before, because people call me a liar. Sorry about that, folks. People call me a liar. I put my Social Security number on here. I put all kinds of shit on here. I've given my Social Security number to many of people so that they can run my background if they want. My background's over 300 pages. And after my last court case, all that crap that went on during my court case, I guarantee you it's bigger than 300 pages now. Guarantee it. But what the government does, whether it's local or federal, with me, they couldn't figure out who I was. I even would tell people on my freaking channel, my name is David Brian Grooms. DAVIDBRIANGROOMS. Look it up, folks. There's a million of us. See if you can find me. I ain't playing with you at all. I figured this out a long time ago. I made a car payment in my name. I just bought this car. I think it was the first car payment or second car payment or something. And I'm like, they're calling me going, man, you haven't even made a payment yet. I'm going, what are you talking about? I've sent I ain't missed a payment. Well, I was in Indiana. This guy in Ohio bought a car through the same dealership that I did. Same name. I made my payments, my first two payments. They went on that guy's account. They're looking at me going, you ain't made a payment yet. And I'm going, buddy, I did it with a card. You can't deny I haven't made the payment. They start looking and going, they tell me, oh man, there's a guy, through the same dealership, he's got your exact same name and everything, and that's how it got screwed up. Well, that's one of the first times I ever looked my name up. My name is almost as common as John Smith. I ain't playing with you. Look it up. David Brian with an I, GROOMS. MS. Well, these guys couldn't figure out who I was. I was telling them my name. All they had was Watachi Running Free. They knew the vehicles that I were driving. Didn't have my name on any one of them. The phone I use does not have my name on it anywhere. Now, this is what's funny, is because my son, even though he was born before I ever even met him, he was born before I ever even met him. He was born 3.5 years before I ever even laid eyes on him. His father was a good friend of mine. His father's name was David. And when they had my son, or his son, they named him after the father, which his name was David, and my first name is David. So when I met my son that I have today, he was 3.5 years old, and his first name was David. But he pays for my phone. So if I call you, it comes up his name, David, what his last name is. I'm not going to tell you that. But it comes up that. I could call the police department, the sheriff's department, the governor's office. I could call anybody. They still didn't know who the hell I was. And believe me, folks, I was calling the governor's office, the attorney general's office of Ohio, the head of the health department. I called everybody every day. I had nothing else left to do. I was criminally trespassed from not only the restaurant that gave me, or not the restaurant, the grocery store that I got a video proving he gave me permission to be in it. I was criminally trespassed. Like, they told me not to come on their property, and I came back. I got a year in jail for that. That never happened. I was never told not to come on that property until that officer pulled the shit he pulled that night. But I was arrested for criminal trespassing. I wasn't even given a chance to leave. All I wanted was to leave the property, and they claimed I ran from an officer. They then, after that happened, they got me arrested, and I wanted them to have my Social Security number by then. They asked me for it. I did not have to give it to them. Even on arrest, I did not. I gave them my ID. I gave them everything. They knew where I lived. That's where they arrested me. Everybody knew I was telling them the truth. The only thing they wanted was my Social Security number so they could run my background. They were convinced I was some criminal from somewhere. There was somebody wanting me, and they were going to do a federal search. They were going to do whatever it could just to get a warrant to arrest me. Do something to me. And the officers, they drove me all the way back. This is a fact, folks. The officer that arrested me at my house after they claimed I fled from an officer, never ran a stoplight, stop sign, never had a cop behind me, I drove straight home, not breaking any speed limits. I don't break speed limits. I have nowhere to be, folks. I drive in the driveway, these guys arrest me. Or they talk to me a little bit. I got a gun sticking out of my pocket as they come on my property. They got guns, I got guns. We're talking. They're telling me not to reach for mine. Told them you ain't got to worry about it unless you reach for yours. Unless you're trying to kill me, you ain't got to worry about my gun. That's exactly what I told them. We talked, and they come back and said, look, Mr. Grones, we got to arrest you. The lieutenant said he's calling for an arrest on this. We're just going to take you down and book you. You're not going to go to jail. We're going to release you right afterwards. And they weren't calling me Mr. Grooms. They were calling me by my name because both officers that were on my property had been in many videos. Or no, one of them been in a lot of videos. The other one has just been a guy interested. One of the officers interested in me, and we became friends. But I asked them when they finally told me I was under arrest. I said, well, then I'm going to take my gun. My wife's standing right there next to me, and we're standing in my front yard in front of my neighbors. I said, all right, well, that's fine. I'm going to go with you, no fight. I said, let me hand my gun to my wife and let her take it in the house. There's no reason for that to be taken. And Nick asked me, he said, do you mind if I pull it out of your pocket and give it to your wife? I said, no. So I turned my hip around, let him pull it out of my pocket, and he gave it to my wife. And then he patted me down, handcuffed me, and put me in the police car. He booked me, and when he's booking me, folks, he tells me the other officer now wants me charged with driving without a license. That's when I said, what did I hand you? He goes, I know, Brian, he goes, I'm not writing a ticket. I'm not writing it. He wants to write it, he can come in here, he can write it. I never got handed a ticket, folks, that said I was driving without a license. I never was handed that ticket. When I got into court for actually fleeing, they claimed I fleed the officer. Then I found out, they also tacked on I was driving without a license. That was their original stop, and that's why I was fleeing. That they had to come up with that to make their fleeing work. Because, see, folks, unless you've broken the law, you don't have to stop just because an officer goes, he wants to talk to you. He's got to have a reason that you've done something, that you've broken the law. He can't just walk up on you and detain you for nothing. And he certainly cannot ID you unless you've broken some law that he says and can at least, what do they call it? There's a word for it. Oh man, shit. I used to know all these law terms of folks. This is why I don't talk about this shit anymore. But at this time, when this officer pulled this stuff in this grocery store, shit, that's where conspiring started. They had to come up with something to get my social security number. They couldn't, they conspired to do this. They got it, finally. I gave it to them. I finally gave it to them so they could run my background check. And it was funny. It was funny. The prosecutor's heart dropped. It dropped when he fucking saw it. 300 pages. 300 pages. No criminal background. How do you think that works, folks? 300-page background. No criminal background. They had nothing on me. No criminal background whatsoever when they got it done. And they even had to, I forced them to tell me that. But folks, this is what I'm telling you. And then once they filed these charges, I filed many times to have these charges dropped for lack of evidence and all this stuff. I got stacks of paperwork. I filed all this stuff. I was my own lawyer, folks. I've done this before. That's why there's no criminal background on my background. I know how to fight this shit. None of it works today. Well, I don't know what laws you guys are working off of, but if the Constitution's still in place, in the last 3 years, this entire government, maybe not your local town, but federally, definitely federally, and where they're pushing these medical doctors and these companies to force stuff on you, that is a violation of Article 18, U.S. Code 241 and 242. They thought about this shit before they done it. That's conspiracy. Everything they done to me was conspired. They were doing shit. They were making any cop that talked to me, because I was getting information from so many different cops around town. I would stop and talk to them, joke with them and shit, and I would get information out of them, and they didn't even know I was getting it. I was just bullshitting with them, and then I'd do a video about the information I got. They got to the point that these officers were told, if you have a minute, if Watachi pulls up and talks to you, we want a complete report, a complete police report, time, date, everything he said, what you said, everything. Now they got video cameras, folks. I ain't playing with you. And when I pull up, they kick them off. I used to laugh about it. But a lot of the cops didn't do it anyway. They still didn't do it. I'd pull up to them going, hey, you guys still having to write them big police reports if you talk to me? And some of us ain't, you know. I mean, if you do, they go, we're not even writing them anymore. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't want to fuck you up. If you're going to have to write a 2-hour report, I ain't pulling up here to bullshit with you to cause that. And they were like, it just got to the point that their leadership was like, they didn't know how to deal with me, folks. But I was right. I was telling the sheriff's department, I was telling these guys, they're violating everybody's rights in town, in the state, in the country with this crap. And if you guys look up Article 18, U.S. Code 241, 242, violating your rights under the color of law, which means they use the law, whatever law they come up with, to violate your rights. They're thinking about how they can violate your rights and use the law to do it. Almost every police officer that's ever worked the job has done that. People, these codes are so important that you can get life in prison. The people that have violated 241 and 242 could get life in prison if they are convicted. And if somebody dies in the process, if they claim something is that they're fucking doing, that something happened that didn't happen, and somebody is shot and killed, or whatever happens, somebody dies, they can get death as well. They can get the death penalty as well. These two Article 18, U.S. Code 241, 242 are so important that it ain't even funny. And most of you don't even know it exists. I called, in the middle of all this, I called the FBI myself. The Department of Justice myself, and asked them, is the Constitution still in place? Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is. Is Article 18, U.S. Code 241 and 242 still in place? Both the FBI and the Department of Justice told me it was. And I said, I want to bring charges up on the entire state of Ohio and the governor then. The sheriff, all of them. Oh, no. You're not getting that. You're not getting that, Mr. Grooms. This is an emergency. This is a pandemic. I said, wait a minute. It states it right in the mask mandate that I'm supposed to have an exemption. We lied. That's basically what they did to me, folks. So for those of you, I know this is another long video. I don't even care. If you don't want to watch it, go on down the damn road. I don't even care anymore. This shit's facts. Look it up yourself. Go to Google. I guarantee you, look it up on Google. Article 18, U.S. Code 241, 242. And if you don't think your rights have been violated under the color of law in the last 3 years, I don't know where the hell you're living. Because right now over in China, 100% across the fucking board, their rights have been. And I know they're not a demonocracy like America. But see, the Constitution never was the law of a demonocracy. It was the Constitution of a republic. And if the republic don't stand, then quit lying to me. I need to know where I need to be to deal with the ignorance of this world. People, God loves you. I love you. I wouldn't do this if I didn't. I wouldn't have studied the law like I did if I didn't love you guys. I'm just trying to figure out how to fight these people myself. I thought I had a little bit of it figured out how to fight them. Oh, they done washed all that shit away. All that shit don't even stand anymore. This is why I tell you the Constitution does not exist. And your majority rule, demonocracy, doesn't even exist. It's a minority rule. Anyone that's sitting in or works in the Washington, that 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., is who is controlling your asses, my ass, and everybody else's ass. They get to control you more because you have things. They can't even hardly shut me up anymore. That's their biggest thing. They've done taken everything else from me. Any kind of money I can make, anything like that, I ain't got nothing to sell. I can't even sell my Jeep. If I wanted to sell that thing, they got a lien on it. Indiana does. Indiana State Revenue Office holds the lien on that Jeep. I can't sell it. You guys are next. Hell, they're hoping I'll die and that'll shut me up. That's what they hoped on my dad. He lived to see 90. He lived to see 90 years old. They were like, buddy, we're sick and tired of you being here. He had a reverse mortgage on his house. Him and my mom. My mom died at 81. She died 6 months after my dad died. But they kept showing up, checking around the house. Mr. Grunt, is your wife here? Making sure everybody's still alive. I told him one day, I said, Dad, they're just pissed off. You keep on living. You just keep on living. That's pissing them off. And that's a fact, folks. You guys, like I said, God loves you. I love you. Till the next one. Seek Jesus' path. The rest of it don't even matter. Just trying to tell you something.